Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Rob Browne here with you on this Tuesday morning edition of Sidelines. Got a great show store for you today. Jake Wimberly is going to join us, ESPN 105.9, The Afternoon Drive in Jackson, Mississippi. Love having him on. I was on his show yesterday afternoon. You ought to see this thing he's called the hourglass. It's a matrix of all these different categories of what makes teams successful. It involves recruiting, different position breakdowns, and we're going to get into that with Jake today when he calls in. Of course, he does such a great job of covering everybody in Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Southern, everything from top to bottom. So we'll definitely get into that. John Hattler joins us, the play-by-play voice, UT Martin, gives great perspective on the mid-level schools. I like to hear from all the different schools, D1, 2, 3, what's going on in college athletics. John will check in from Martin, Tennessee, in the second segment. Ben Troupe joins us down at ESPN Coastal in Savannah. Love hearing from him. He's always got a lot of good stuff to talk about when he is on. And I know he's close with Vernell Browne from Florida, who's now taken over to work with Anthony Richardson, who was the fourth pick in the draft. And it's going to be fun to watch Anthony Richardson's development. I think it's significant to note that the offensive coordinator from the Eagles, who I'm sure played a role in helping with the development of Jalen Hurts, is now going to be doing the same thing for the Indianapolis Colts. So, you got to have great coaches. You've got to have great mentors, and it looks like that's a good setup for Anthony Richardson. And also, Rodney Orr checks in, Tighter Insider, with us in the fourth segment. Rodney and Gary Harris, of course, do a great show, WVUA TV 23 in Tuscaloosa, Tuesday nights at 6:30. So that's tonight. Definitely don't want to miss that every week. And also, Gary Harris is with us on Thursdays as well. So a lot of coverage of Alabama. And we're going to bring in now Jake Wimberly. And Jake, let me say this too. Follow us on Twitter at Sidelines_live, 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, 50 hours a month at least of content. And we try to do the best guest on right now. And hey, the hourglass, man, that is the coolest report that I read yesterday that you do for breaking down college teams, why they're successful, why they're not, recruiting position by position. And really, and I saw your notes this morning, you put a podcast out there to explain it. So let people know how they can pick up on that, because if you love college football, the magazines haven't come out yet, you need to be reading this, because this will give you just endless hours of reading pleasure. And it's some of the most critically important information you'll read about college football.
Rob, I appreciate that. You can get the podcast. Just go to Apple, iTunes, and just search Jake Wimberly or The Afternoon Drive with Jake Wimberly. The content, cfbhourglass.com. And Rob, I'm just getting started with this stuff. That was the initial piece, kind of explaining. And we've been doing this now for about 8 years. It's probably actually a little longer than that, but publicly about 8 years. And the kind of the methodology, and I am not unique in this. There's other people that do this. Dave Bartus of the world with College Football Matrix, kind of the godfather of this. You look at Bill Conley with ESPN. There's some others that do it. This just is my twist on it, with a math background, engineering background. Just kind of always been a lover of numbers, and I just call it Moneyball for college football, and in a way to project. It's not an exact science, shall we say, but it's pretty darn close when you get into it, to how to project college football. And I can remember a funny story on this when I started doing this years ago. Hal Mummy, who coached at Kentucky, and of course he was here at Belhaven, he took a jab at me on air. He used to have a show here on our network, and he said, we got some of these people in this area that think you can project college football before spring practice ever gets over. He said, that's hogwash. There may be something to that, but these teams do have profiles. There are things that matter in college football, and there's identifiers that we can tell a lot about teams and even project records way into the future about these teams, and that's what this stuff does. And the initial piece is about kind of the setup, the criteria that goes into it, And then, of course, we'll get into team-by-team breakdowns coming up in the next several weeks. We'll go through all the SEC teams, all the Big Ten teams, all the Power Five conferences. I'll release before the end of the week my college football playoff and who I think is going to win the national championship this week.
Well, what I like looking at it is the recruiting. I mean, and it changes so much. We had Jason Caldwell on yesterday, 24/7 Sports, covers Auburn. And when we looked at what he, we talked about all the stuff going on in recruiting and the portal. Auburn's class, they signed in February of 21. Of the entire class, there are only 3 players still on the roster. That's kind of unimaginable. And when you think about how difficult it is to try to keep up with rosters now, depth charts and all like that, it is, and Jake, the fact that of Auburn's class, February 21, that's, golly, just over 2 years ago. Only 3 of those guys are still on the football team. That's the kind of stuff, if you're not with what you're doing, that allows you to keep up. Right now, it's not like it used to be where you could look at the depth chart and you could count on it. I mean, you have guys entering the portal. They had that window. It ended Sunday night at midnight. But if you're a graduate, you can transfer at any time. And that's a big deal. And so let's break down. I'd like to get your thoughts. I love the fact, are you mechanical or civil engineering?
Civil.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That explains why your mind works the way, because my dad's an architect. You don't put a picture on the wall without taking a leveling beam, 16-inch stud interior. Engineers, civil engineers, you build bridges. Mechanical, you make the world move. Without engineers, nothing happens. So I love this. This is going to be exciting. Let's break down in the West right now. Let's take a look first at Ole Miss and Mississippi State, what they have coming back, all that stuff, and I'll let you because this is the kind of stuff that makes us understand, okay, now I'm connecting the dots.
Yeah, and it's important to understand this too. The recruiting aspect is extremely important. We know that. And, we were going back and forth with some of our listeners yesterday, and it's always fun to do. A lot of people say, well, stars don't matter. Stars actually do matter. You can go back and look all the way back into the BCS. If you're not recruiting inside the top 15 of the country annually, you're not going to win the national championship. I mean, you may have to go all the way back to some of those Nebraska teams that won back in the early 2000s, but then we didn't have recruiting rankings. But recruiting rankings have become so thorough now. And you look at the SEC West, I mean, you've got, basically everybody in the SEC West is a top 25, top 30 recruiter. So, I break it down as this. You've got the teams that have the talent on their rosters that can win the national title. That's about 16 different teams in the country annually. Then you've got teams, the next group of talent, teams that can make, based on talent alone, they could probably make the college football playoff. The problem, and Mississippi State and Ole Miss and Arkansas fall right in that second batch of talent. But the problem is they have to play more talented teams in the Southeastern Conference. So, where you look at Mississippi State and Ole Miss, they have really good talent. But if you're going up against a more talented team in LSU this weekend, then an equally talented team against South Carolina the next, and then a more talented team against Alabama, it just goes south on you. So when you look at Mississippi State and Ole Miss, they've recruited extremely well. And then we look at other factors like coaching. Umbrella coverage coaches. A lot of guys like to try to break down coordinators. That gets a little murky for me, how to, really identify coordinators and who works well because of different things. I look at coaches like CEOs. You look at Nick Saban, he's had massive turnover at offensive and defensive coordinators over the last couple of years. He's able to maintain, a high level of success. And then quarterback play is extremely important. Returning quarterback play numbers, not necessarily star-rated quarterbacks, but what they did on the field. But you look at Mississippi State and Ole Miss, both of these teams are going to chalk out around 7 wins, 6-7 wins, and I'll have that exact number. I like to always say, hey, here's the number of one-possession games that teams are going to probably end up in, because every team has an identifier, a composite number identifier on them. So we're able to take those numbers and kind of look at it and say, hey, here's the matchup, and here's what we think the outcome will be.
Yeah, and you're right. If you're not in the top 16 winning the national championship, it's difficult. Let's go back over the last 15 years, how many teams have played for the national championship at least 2 times? What is it? Maybe 5 or 6?
Yeah. No, at least you look at Alabama's played for multiple national championships. I mean, Ohio State has been right there a couple times. Clemson is one of those teams. LSU, you go back to 2010, back to Les Miles. They've played in a couple too. So, yeah, I mean, you're only looking at a handful of teams predominantly dominated by Alabama, Georgia, and Clemson.
And then, and you've got Oregon's played for it twice in 2010 and 2014, Auburn in 2010 and 2013. Yet you look at Auburn, I mean, they got a lot of work to do to get even back in that conversation. Yet Oregon, they had 45,000 at the spring game Saturday. And I understand Brian Harsin was there and saw Bo Nix. The only place Bo Nix could go to get away from Harsin further would be the Pacific Ocean. But I digress. This is fascinating stuff. Now, you're saying Ole Miss and State, you think this year 6 or 7 wins. Zach Arnett is going to take over. He's been at State with Mike Leach. He's going to make some things different. What is Mississippi State doing in the portal in the last, say, month that's giving you hope that maybe they can exceed that win total?
Well, in the last month, the biggest thing that they've done is picked up, you go back into spring practice, a couple of defensive backs that it should help, kind of bolster that secondary that gave up some big chunk plays last year. They went into the portal and grabbed a couple tight ends, which Kevin Barbay is known for, having tight ends that run that, he runs that basically he'll run, an 11 package, a 12 package, on offense. So he's going to need some tight ends. He's done that. So to kind of make that offense fit in the mold of what they, what they want to be. And, obviously that portal window has closed. We'll see if Mississippi State picks up another player, but they're right on top of the 85 right now. So they're probably going to be capped out at this point.
Ole Miss, they've got some quarterbacks over there. I mean, Walker Howard's there, Jackson Dart. The tight end position, Michael Trigg. Michael Trigg is a great athlete. We had Franz Beard, I remember, was talking on Rebel Yell Hotline with Yancey Porter, I remember, a year ago, and talked about Franz watched him play. Michael's from around Tampa. Saw him play a high school basketball game and score 42 points. This guy is a hell of an athlete. Is he an Evan Ingram type of guy, though? 6'3", 225, hybrid that everybody, Ole Miss and everybody in the SEC just dreams about having? Can he be that good in this offense?
I think so, if he can stay healthy. Right. I think Lane Kiffin, that's what he wanted him to be last year. Obviously, the injury took him out of the season. But, yeah, I think so. And you're seeing – and I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. You're kind of seeing a return to the tight end position more so in the hybrid. And we've seen this for several years. You referenced Evan Ingram. You look at what Florida had a couple of years ago. You've seen this around the country, but more so Georgia putting an emphasis on the tight end. Mississippi State, Ole Miss putting emphasis on tight end. Michigan, emphasis on the tight end. Notre Dame as well. So, but these are not your old school throwback, hand in the ground tight ends. You want them to block. You want to be able to set up on those third down and short, those down and distance, plays where you can use them as a blocker. But these guys are athletes. They're post players in basketball.
Yeah. And you start looking at a guy that's 6'5" or 6'6". That really gives you some reach to throw into the end zone in the corner and use them almost like a receiver. But a lot of schools do talk about using the tight end. Very few of them actually follow through. And that you see that a lot. And I'm just looking at these numbers. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, LSU, Texas, Oklahoma. That's championship level talent. And I mentioned Texas at 5, Oklahoma at 6, A&M at 7. Good Lord. In the SEC, it's just amazing to me. We're going to be bringing it. We're bringing sand to the beach, big time with those two schools. And, I look at Texas as having the edge right now because of a larger talent base in their home state. But Oklahoma, really, they've been a dominant program for so long. Last year they dipped. Not a good first year for Brent Venables. But I think they're both. When they come into this league, the learning curve is going to be pretty quick. They got a lot of money, but everybody in the SEC has enough money. That's not it. I mean, because Texas has a $42 billion endowment. $42 billion. Yet the cost of tuition hadn't gone down. They hadn't won a national championship since 2005. Oklahoma, They'll be right there. But you think about it. Texas offensive linemen in the last 15 years, they've had one or two taken in the first round. How do you explain that? It's inexplainable. But I still think they're both going to make this league even more competitive. And you're going to be able to get to the playoffs with a 10-2 or 9-3 regular season, I think.
No, I think you're right. And look, there's an interesting read if you guys haven't seen it on The Athletic, if you subscribe to it, and just happened to come out this week. They've been working on what's called 3-Star U, where they're breaking down the last 11 years, and they're basically equating star talent going in on every team in the Power 5 versus NFL draft picks. And it's astonishing on Texas what you see. The number of 5-star players that they've signed are even more so than Clemson and other players in college football. But the guys they have going into the NFL are minuscule. Same way with 4-star talent. So what that tells you a lot of times is, hey, it's not the stars that are broken. These programs, for whatever reason, are not developing this talent. And you go back after Mac Browne at Texas, Charlie Strong couldn't get it done. Tom Herman couldn't get it done. We'll see if Sarkisian gets it done. But it is I've always talked about culture in college football, and that isn't necessarily street culture or how you act in a bar and grill or, it's what goes on, Rob, this, what goes on inside those walls, who's pulling the strings behind the scenes, what does the alumni, how active are they? Is there a Philip Fulmer effect going on there? Texas has, at least in my estimation, some sort of a culture problem going on there.
Yeah. All right, when we come back, that's what we're going to get into is the breakdown on 5s, 4s, 3s, 2s, 1s, and NRs, not even recognized. Okay. So hang in there. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with Jake Wimberly. All right, Rob Browne back here with it. Jake Wimberly, ESPN 105.9. The Afternoon Drive in Jackson, Mississippi, covers everything in Mississippi and the big picture nationally in college football. John, I want to say something, but Jake, before we get back, about rumbleboxinggym.com/Midtown Memphis and Camp Lee opening up the first of 3 locations in the Memphis market. This is at 1835 Union Avenue, Memphis, right on the corner of Union and McLean across from Walgreens. I went there. I'm going back this week to do the workout again. 45 minutes. That's the same amount of time that a 15-round prize fight, if you could go that far, 15 3-minute rounds. Good God. This is all calisthenics, dumbbells, burpees, star jacks. Then you're doing the punching bag, jab, jab, hook, hook, gut, gut, nonstop, 45 minutes. Best workout. I would equate it because I swim, I bike, I run. I love all this stuff. I love doing triathlons. I'll just say this. It's the equivalent of land swimming. It's that hard of a workout. It's the best workout you can get. Check them out, rumbleboxinggym.com in Memphis. You will love yourself for doing it, and you'll meet a lot of great people when you are there. Jake, let's go back and look at some examples. You look in the Super Bowl, Tampa Bay and Kansas City a couple of years ago. Of the roster, there was 1 5-star on there, Leonard Fournette. There were 24 stars on the 2 rosters combined. There were 22 3-stars, and there were 41 others, non-rateds, 2s, 1s. I think there's something to be said about you were a 5-star when you were 18, but when you were 21, you were about a 3 because you went backwards versus the 3 that was at 17 who at age 20 is a 4 or a 5. He developed properly, went in the weight room. I mean, that's the athletic. I mean, it's hard to find, that kind of research, but you've got that mind, that analytical mind as an engineer, but it makes sense, doesn't it?
Oh, it absolutely makes sense. I mean, we all are either getting better or getting worse, right? No matter who we are and what we're doing, it be it athletics or your job or whatever it may be, as a family, you're only getting better, or you're getting worse. And that's the same way with these guys. You take a guy, like a Robert Kimdichie, who came to Ole Miss several years ago. Did he get much better from the time he left Georgia through Ole Miss? I mean, he got some better. He did enough to get a high draft pick, high draft grade, and get become an NFL player at a high draft pick. But he really never, made it in the National Football League because he stopped getting better. Whereas you take a guy here in the state of Mississippi like Jonathan Banks, who was a 2 or 3 star in high school. He goes to Mississippi State, plays defensive back, wins the Thorpe Award. He just got better as he kept going. So, absolutely. And I think what you see a lot of times is, and in that 3-Star U article, they talk about it, is who are the best developmental programs of talent. And that doesn't always equate to national championship talent in college football, but it makes your talent better. Dan Mullen, one of the things that he did at Mississippi State was he developed talent. His staff developed talent pretty darn well. He did. But when he went to Florida, he tried to take the same model. And of course, as we know, Florida is a different animal. We can't do that. But it absolutely makes sense. Just because you're a 5-star doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to get to the National Football League. The odds are high, but NFL rosters, just by numbers alone, are littered with 3 stars.
Well, look at this past year's Elite 8 and Final Four in the NCAA March Madness. In the Final Four, Jake, there were zero McDonald's All-Americans. I don't know if there were any from, Burger King or Popeyes. I don't know if they have an All-American team or not. But bottom line, you didn't see many one-and-dones or freshman phenomenon. It was teams. And we talked about that all year long leading up to the tournament, that the true teams would really shine, and they did. I mean, San Diego State, their roster was older than 5 NBA teams. And they came, they played for the whole thing. And so it's pretty.
Yeah, college basketball is a different animal. We know that. And the reason that the talent doesn't always equate, for instance, take Georgia. Georgia is 1 quarterback away. If they land Dylan Raiola this year, they are the talent quarterback in the class of 2024. They will likely have the highest rated class in the history of college football, dwarfing the one Texas A&M had a couple years ago. But those players will stay on campus in Athens for at least a couple of years. Where basketball, you take Calipari at Kentucky, he's running them through there like new clothes every, on a girl. I mean, it's just changing the clothes all the time, and you can't get continuity with that. It doesn't work. That's why you see teams like San Diego State, like you said, they have an older roster. Those guys maybe have come in at 3 stars, but they've played together for so long. They're playing like a bunch of 4s, really. Yeah. They're playing much better. Now, obviously, when you get up against more talent like a UConn, then it goes south on you. But college basketball, it's a totally different animal, but the premise is still the same.
Yeah, let's talk about the talent levels. And I'm looking down here, the SEC schools that you've got on there. And I'll read them just to be professional. Alabama 1, Georgia 2, LSU 4, future SEC members, Texas and Oklahoma 5 and 6, current A&M number 7, Texas A&M number 7. You've gone down to Florida at 14, Tennessee at 15, Auburn at 17. That's surprising because of all of the turmoil. Auburn's in the midst of the last 3 years, the worst 3 years in the modern era of college football. About as bad as I've seen in a long time. Ole Miss at number 19, Arkansas at 21, Kentucky 22, Mississippi State at 23, Missouri at 24. Wow, South Carolina 27. I'm not going to read beyond that. We know Vanderbilt's way down the list, but that just shows you it's a crowded house in the SEC. There's really nowhere that you can go hide and stay away from it. And it's that way in baseball. It's that way in basketball. I like what you're doing. I want to look now at the shifts in recruiting. You talked about that A&M class, the one in February of 22. It was at the time the highest rated class in history. Already 30 players gone off that A&M roster. There are probably going to be more. In Georgia, the difference is they're developing the players. That's it.
No, you're right. Absolutely. And they don't have a lot of attrition. I mean, look at Georgia. They don't have a lot of attrition at all. I mean, we just saw, their quarterback room. They had a quarterback that was thinking about leaving. He's staying just to be the number 2 guy possibly there, where Texas A&M has all this attrition. Now, they are bringing some guys in, so it kind of somewhat balances it out. But Georgia, almost zero attrition. Texas A&M, a lot more attrition. And then Georgia's getting the most out of their players, where Texas A&M is not.
Yeah, and eventually Texas A&M, whether it's Jimbo Fisher or somebody else, is going to figure it out. They're going to get it right. They have unlimited financial resources. They're in a talent-rich state. They're in the SEC. Their good friends from Austin are now going to be bunkmates with them in the SEC. I know they're so glad for that. Oklahoma's coming into the league, but if you don't develop players, talented players are no different than groceries, Jake. If you go to Fresh Market on the way home today and spend $1,000 on halibut, free-range chicken, aged Angus beef, caviar, you name it, and you leave it in the back of your truck for a week in the Jackson, Mississippi heat. It's not that hot yet, but let's think about July and August. That's what happens when you don't develop talent. And if you worry about it, it's like I tell people in the stock market. I said, if you're worried about it and you go out and I said, do you have a vegetable garden? Sure, I do. Okay. All right. Well, do you go out and pull the tomatoes and the eggplant and the squash up by the roots every day to check their progress? No, I don't do that. Well, then don't do that with your stocks. But in terms of developing a garden, you got to water it. You got to fertilize it. You got to pull the weeds out of it. Player development, when you got a lot of talented players that aren't putting out the effort, that's a real cancer culture right there.
No, it is. And look, you look at Texas A&M, and this gets off deeper into kind of the numbers that I do, is Texas A&M defensively last year was not that bad. Now, they had some moments in time where they couldn't get to the quarterback, kind of a bend, don't break defense. They only gave up like 19 points per game. It was the offense. We know that. That's why they made the change for Bobby Petrino. And then it brings into, the quarterback situation. They could never get the quarterback situation right either. No. So, when you've got a talented roster that gets off the bus like Texas A&M, and, you got players leaving the program, and then you don't have an identity offensively, in this day and age, you've got to be able to score the football. I don't care how talented you are.
Yeah. You know what? And you're right. Again, a brain like yours as an engineer, I knew you were smart. Now I know why. Maury Gaston, one of our close friends, and part of the Sidelines team, is listening. He's a mechanical engineer over in Birmingham. He monitors breaks down every show. He is going to I'm going to have to get him on here with you. But you understand how things flow and the reason why things happen. And the Texas A&M one, you have, and we have Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com, on the show a lot. Olin he's elite. He's fantastic.
He's fantastic, yeah.
He really is. And he worked with Kirk Bowles for 12 years at the Austin American-Statesman. And my friend Dave Cody knows him, who was at Austin for 36 years at Channel 7. Olin will break it down. And he said, I know this is, going back and saying this, but A&M was about 7 points, a touchdown away from being in those games of being 10-2. And you nailed it. The offense, they fell for Haynes King. Now, let's be honest, which we always are. Free speech, First Amendment. His father is one of the top guys in the Texas High School Athletic Association. Now, Jimbo Fisher, I'm not saying he did, but you'd be a fool not to. Curry favor with that guy. He may be able to help you get some players. I don't know. But they did not develop. Haynes King did not develop at all. And Bobby Petrino, whatever you want to say about him, feel free to do so. Unfasten the seatbelt signs are off. Walk around the cabin. Say what you want. The guy is an absolute elite offensive mind. Now, can he get along with Jimbo Fisher? Hell, I don't know. But you know what? If Jimbo gives him the green light and lets him, we all better watch out for A&M. I just, there's a lot of talent there.
Oh, there's a lot of talent. You're right. The Haynes King thing did not work out for them. If they get the quarterback situation right, and I believe I have A&M. Let me look right quickly. I'll get more into this week. But Texas A&M, I've got going 8-4 this year, with about 1, 2, 3, 4, what I call one possession games this year. That week 2 game against Miami is going to be, in a very, very important game for both programs, for Miami and for Texas A&M, because Mario Cristobal is somewhat in the same situation as Jimbo Fisher. So that game is going to really, really tell the tale about this Texas A&M team. But you're right. If they can get the offense going, if they can get things going in the right direction, they should flip that record. They should get back on the plus side. Now, 8-4 is not what they're paying Jimbo Fisher to be, but it is progress based on what they did last year.
Yeah, it is. And if you've got just a couple of minutes, John Hattler, who's the play-by-play voice for UT Martin, he is up in Martin, Tennessee. Love to get his perspective because he's seeing, what they play in their conference, and then they play the bigger schools. But I want you to introduce to him your looking glass, so the hourglass, because this is some of Jake. I am so glad that we've got you now on the show with us regularly, because again, the football magazines are going to be out in 23 days. Usually they're around Memorial Day weekend. And every time I'm in Walmart, anyway, I'm looking for them, man. But this is this Bobby Petrino deal. Again, say what you want. He is an absolute badass offensive coordinator. He wins everywhere he goes. Look what he did at Missouri State last year. And we're going to get into this after the break, but I'm concerned if you're looking at what happened last year, and you're right, Jake. The offense was god awful last year. You're bringing in Bobby Petrino. You're going from having Uncle Charlie from My Three Sons as the chef at your restaurant. You're bringing in a Gordon Ramsay, Wolfgang Puck. That's what you're doing here, and that's the thing that scares the bejesus out of me. Is too many people are going to be looking at what happened last year, and if they approach A&M like that, if you've ever shot a cottonmouth or a rattlesnake and you ran over there right after you did it and you picked them up by the tail, you probably got bit. Because there's something going on with A&M, and I will say this about Jimbo Fisher: he's always been successful at developing quarterbacks, and he's always been successful developing quarterbacks. I would be very, 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 very careful about sleeping on him. And I'm just saying this, but Petrino is dangerous. John Hattler is on here with us right now. John, this is Jake Wimberly, ESPN 105.9, The Afternoon Drive in Jackson, Mississippi. He has put together something, and Jake, is it okay if I forward it to him today? Okay.
Yeah, it's all public. It's all out there. And again, this is just the initial piece that I do every year, so there's a lot more that's coming.
It's tell him about it though, what it is before we go to the break. What this is? It's John is a banker. Now Jake is an engineer in his other life, and so this is great stuff. I love it.
Yeah, basically, John, it's called. I just call it the college football hourglass. It's just a way to kind of project college football teams looking forward months and months in advance. Think of Moneyball, if you ever saw the old movie Moneyball.
Watched it last night.
So this is college football Moneyball, on steroids, where I take basically a lot of different criteria. I've been working on this for years: recruiting, quarterback play, coaching, analytics over the last 2 to 3 years, offensive, defensive scoring efficiency, schedules, the way schedules line up, and really just put everything in a hopper. Spit it out, and then we've got projections for teams on all 130 teams. Plus, you can take it, and I use it in sports gaming come the fall to kind of go against the casinos as well.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, send me that. That's it's nice to meet you, but yeah, that's pretty impressive. I especially the casino. That's one thing I love doing. I love watching how good Vegas is.
Yeah.
Anytime you can find someone like yourself, Mr. Wimberly, that can kind of tweak the odds and compile all that information. I love seeing that stuff just to prove how good Vegas really is.
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of tall buildings in Las Vegas for a lot of reasons, but and Jake, we come back just a few minutes if you can stay with us, because
sure.
I want to get your thoughts. John sees, broadcasting all of UT Martin football, all the different games, basketball, baseball, but at every level, player development is absolutely critical. Again, you can buy the best groceries in the world, but if you don't develop them in the kitchen, it don't matter. What is our friend Jimmy Ott says? Potential is as a Cajun word for you ain't done a damn thing yet, son. We'll be right back with two of the smart guys after this. All right, we are back here, Sidelines, on this Tuesday morning, college football, basketball, baseball blitz. Sidelines Southern Sports Report, Monday through Saturday, 8 to 10 a.m. Central, sidelines.live. You can hear us, see us, watch us, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. We put stuff out there, my producer, everywhere. Let's talk some more of the analytical part of it. And Jake, I know you just got a couple of minutes. You got to get going. But, I'm going to ask you first, John. You see guys that come that are, say, on a 1 to 5 in recruiting, they may be a 2 or a 3 or a 4, but if they're developed properly, it's even better, isn't it? And so I just want to get your thoughts on what you see. And then Jake, if you can just kind of give him feedback, and then I'll let you go. And then we're going to bring Ben Troupe in, who played at Florida, and talk about how many guys he saw probably come in that were big shots that all of a sudden couldn't handle the competition.
Yeah, at a school, that's a great question. At a school like UT Martin, if we get a 3-star and we sign a 3-star, that's a big deal here. I mean, I can count on one hand how many 3-stars we've signed out of high school in the last 15 years. But to your point, we had one get drafted by the Tennessee Titans on Saturday. Colton Dow from Lebanon, Tennessee, went to Wilson Central, never caught a pass, until his senior year in high school because they ran the wing T. He comes to UT Martin. He's a career receiving leader in the history of the school, gets picked up by the Tennessee Titans with the 228th pick the other day. Then our quarterback, Dresser Wynn, who actually beat Bobby Petrino 2 years ago in the playoffs, 32-31 on the road. And we lost to Bobby Petrino last year, 35-30 in Springfield, Missouri. But Dresser Wynn, local hometown boy, got picked up by the Los Angeles Rams in a free agent contract on Sunday. He's number 3 on the Rams depth chart right now behind Goff and Stafford. So you're right. Building those players, developing those players, even at a small school like ours, you can still, and we talked about before, Rob, you can still get, the goals are still the same. The aspirations are still the same. Trying to get to the league, you can do that through a little bitty old UT Martin. We got 2 this year that are going to the league and have a chance. Yeah, absolutely. And Jake, just close out and then tell people how they can follow you and keep up with you, because this is the kind of stuff that on May 2nd, you start studying this. By the time September 2nd gets here, you're going to be the smartest kid in the room. I'll say that.
Well, that's debatable, but that's why we got that stuff out there, is to, to keep you informed and to have fun with it. And of course, it's a different angle. Everybody likes to pick the magazines up, like you said, in a month and kind of go through the schedules and say, hey, I think my team's going to win this one, lose this one. Oh yeah, they'll be 7-5. So this is a little deeper dive on that. You can find that at cfbhourglass.com. Of course, I'll have audio with it, everything that we do. You can find that at Apple iTunes as well. Just search the Afternoon Drive. So we'll have out more this week. Should be dropping college football playoff projections and even a national champion this week.
Well, look, we love it. And you got a great show down there in Jackson, cover all things Mississippi. And I'm going to tell you one thing. Every time you're on here, I'm like, wow, I feel like Johnny Carson when he would always say, I did not know that. This right here, welcome to the 2023 Hourglass, is must reading. I mean, You may have to read a research report at work. Hold on a second. First, you got to read this, and then you'll be the smartest guy in the room. But anyway, Jake, thanks so much. Look forward to having you on next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good day.
You bet. You too. That is Jake Wimberly, man. I love having him on here. And Ben Troupe is on here right now with John Hattler, play-by-play voice up at UT Martin. And, we're talking about a piece, guys. Welcome to the 2023 Hourglass that Jake Wimberly has put out. And he sent it to me yesterday, and I was on his show in Jackson yesterday. And it's breaking down, y'all, everything in college football in terms of talent, roster management, and all. And I've just sent the two of y'all a copy of it, and you're going to break it down. You can't really look at it quickly. It's a lot of information, but Ben, you just heard John Hattler talking about UT Martin. They got a couple of guys now that are going to the NFL. He goes, if we get a 3-star around here, he goes, it's a big deal. But the one thing I bet that you do get at a place like UT Martin is a bunch of hungry coaches. They're going to work their asses off to develop those players because they're going, I love it here, but, if I work really hard here, I may get to Florida or Tennessee, or I can stay here and be a head coach and live a great life, whatever. But Ben, what was it like that first day or two when they brought everybody in, when they were all the biggest, baddest, on their high school team, maybe the best player in their state, and all of a sudden they're on a football field at the University of Florida. It's like, hey, there's 100 other guys just like me.
It's overwhelming. I mean, I'm not going to act as if I always say this, man, college is the best and the worst place you ever going to be because it's like a new job. I mean, they're only going to answer the questions you ask because they want you to come on. They're not going to tell you what it really is. It's like this. It's like saying, hey, man, I'm used to working a 9 to 5. Now I'm making $100,000. Okay, well, $100,000 salaries don't come with 9 to 5 responsibilities. They just don't. But even what John said about the UT Martins is, man, talent is talent. See, this is the thing, right? Everything about sports is always trying to be a separator. Oh, he's a 5-star, 4-star. Yeah. The best player in college football the last 2 years, name was Stetson Bennett. Mm-hmm. There were players that were better than him, but he was the best player. He's not going to make no list. He ain't going to be on the all SECs. He ain't going to be because what happens is when you start breaking down talent and what it is, like Coach say, listen, man, the route tree is the route tree. UT Martin, UT, Chattanooga, Austin P, same route tree. Coaches are saying the same thing. They're not saying, hey, man, the UT Martin, we run it like that. No. It's the fact that you need the UT Martins of the world to go because this is the thing, right? I guarantee you, them boys got picked up, from my UT Martin. The last thing they're gonna do is complain. The guys that go to the big schools, they complain about. No. We complain about everything. Oh man, we used to do this. We used to do UT Martin like this. So let me get this straight. The goal was to go to college to get enough exposure to garner enough attention to get drafted. You got drafted, now you complain. When the UT Martin guys beat you out, and it ain't because they went to UT Martin, it's because they're better than you. And that's the hard thing that people don't want to talk about. Jalen Hyatt won the Blitnikoff. He was a unanimous first-team All-American. He went undrafted. He went to UT. So a guy at UT and UT Martin are in the same boat, even though one guy is the flagship university. All I'm saying is, when it comes to it, Rob, when it comes to John, I've never been the type person. The only reason why I know about some of these other schools and when I get drafted, I'm saying, you went to what school? Because when you put that two-tone blue on, we all the same. But then they say, that dude went to UT Martin, right? The one that's killing everybody? Yes. Now, you make the coaches say, wait a minute, who we going to keep? Because if we keep the kid at UT Martin, we got to send 12 scouts up there next year instead of 10. That's what it's really about. It's about gaining exposure. I get it. You go to these big schools, you're going to have every school there for your pro day. But what's harder to do? You went to a P5 and didn't get drafted, or you didn't go P5 and did? That's what's harder because that scout got to walk into that coach's office and say, listen, Coach Vrabel, listen, Rand Carthon. This ain't Dennis Quaid or nothing, but this kid can play.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what I can appreciate the most is because you either can play, you hear this, he ran a 40 time this. He can lift the weight room. Can he play? Football is, can he play? And if he can, because this is the thing, if he runs a 4.2 and he's a receiver, but he can't get open, that's backwards. He's the fast guy, can't get open. But I ran a 4 but I can get open though. I can get open for the guy. I can do that. So that's all I'm saying is football is when you strip us all down, take away the colors, take away the prestige, who's who. Then we start because what'll happen is, you know how many people end up going to UT Martin to go see these other kids. I'm talking about on the teams because they say, man, let me take you up here and show you what we really do. Because we know about these other schools, right? And I just think that's what I like the most about scouting. Let me say this: mock drafts are not scouting. Yeah. Rob Browne got a mock draft. John got a mock draft. Ben got a mock draft. That's not scouting. That's not analytics. That's why when players don't go where they're supposed to go, you know what people say? They'll say, well, I thought he was going this. Why? Because Earl Brown from the Earl Brown report said he's going to go. No, that's his mock draft. My son could do a mock draft. He probably got one. It don't mean anything. No, analytics are when you start breaking down the players, this and the third. And I love it. I love it every single year because, yes, we get enamored with the first round. It takes 12 hours to do 32 picks. I get it takes all day. Mm-hmm. The draft is built in the latter rounds. The best players in the draft are going after round 1. After round 2, really, Wes Welker went undrafted in 2004. He went undrafted. The greatest player, the greatest quarterback went 5th, 6th round. So when you think, hey, man, they got to go first, the failure rate for first round is very high. It's extremely high because we expect them to be all pros and all this, but I'm happy for the players of UT Martin because at the end of the day, I respect football players, man. I don't get caught up in that. Oh, he went here and he went there. It's all about timing. You know, I always say this: if Aaron Rodgers got drafted by the Cleveland Browns, you think he'd become Aaron Rodgers? No. He just same talent. Look at where he's at. So a lot of times it's where you are, you know, what you did. Because me and my brother was having this argument about a player that got drafted out of Georgia, right? I'm not going to say the player. My brother said he had crazy stats. Then I showed him his stats. You know, he didn't even got, but he was on the defense that was monumental 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So they're looking at what he does for the collective of the defense. And to me, man, I love him, man. I play with all kind of players, man. And I respect them all. I don't do this hierarchy stuff. Yeah. I don't do this. Oh, he went to Michigan. He went. Yeah. Can you play football? Because coaches, at the end of the day, if it comes down to UT and UT Martin and it's close, UT is not going to make the squad. Because how do you justify it? That's what people don't like when somebody goes, wait a minute, man. He went to Tennessee. Yeah, when he went to Tennessee, he just got Martin behind him. And he can ball.
Yeah.
It don't matter to me, man. I just love the game of football to where I respect the guys that do it. Mm-hmm. And I just think that the draft is, man, look, if I could pick the draft, I'm going to Vegas. On, Rob. I'm gonna put you in a nice little 3-piece. I want you to turn your head to the side. I'm gonna stand behind you going down the escalator, and you're gonna count these numbers for you. Gonna count these cards for me, so we can win some money. No, man, it ain't a perfect science. And like I said, for every Aaron Rodgers, there's a bunch of quarterbacks. So Johnny Manziel is the greatest. Johnny Manziel for 2 years in the NFL. 2 years. He's the first round pick. So
and he's a legend. Yeah. Yeah. John, all right, now you just heard your lawyer before the United States Supreme Court lay your case out. Don't drop the ball.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. You made a comment, Rob, about coaches. Jason Simpson here at UT Martin's is entering his 17th season as our head coach. He's had to replace over 115 coaches. There are 2 right now with the Tennessee Titans. I don't know if Ben played with them or not, but Clint McMillan was a defensive lineman.
I did play with Clint McMillan.
Yeah,
yes.
He was at Florida. He came to UT Martin, left here, went to Marshall, Florida State, ended up getting into the minority coaching program for the NFL. Titans picked him up. Now he's a coach. We just had Matt Jones, our co-offensive line coach. He left here. He's now with the Tennessee Titans. And you're so right. It's just the path. We talk about it over and over. The path and the goals are still the same. Colton Dowell, the young man, the wide receiver that got drafted by the Titans, he had 7 catches for 112 yards against Tennessee. Now people can say, well, it was a 3rd and 4th stringers. No, it wasn't. And he only played 3 quarters. You know, so I mean, and again, those third and fourth players at Tennessee, if they want to transfer to UT Martin, guess what's happening? They're starting here, baby. I mean, that's just – and so players play. And I love what Ben said. They play, and you know, Dresser Wynn got picked up by the Rams as a quarterback, and he's from right down here in Weakley County, little Dresden, Tennessee. And he's made his dreams come true, you know, get that free agent deal. And you're right, Ben. UT Martin has kind of been put on the map because of the coaches that we have. We have 8 former coaches in the NFL right now. One of them is the defensive line coach at Georgia. The offensive coordinator at Florida State played offensive line at UT Martin. I mean, we've got a big old spider web, and there was a great article that came out back during football season about the Jason Simpson coaching tree now, and how deep those roots run and how big that tree's became. And Jason's done a great job. And like you said, we get young, hungry coaches in here all the time. Jordan Hankins is a linebacker coach at Memphis, very good friend of mine. He played at Lewis County, little hole in wall, Tennessee, and now he's a linebackers coach at Memphis. And he's somebody that's on everybody's board when they're trying to put a staff together. So coaches, players, you're exactly right. It's all about the work. It's all about the time and effort that you put in is going to reap your benefits and your rewards.
Well, Ben got a text from one of our listeners in Dublin, Georgia.
Oh yeah, they know what it is. Dublin know what it is. They ain't Swains. I love it. It ain't Swainsboro, but it's 30 miles up the road. It's funny. When I lived in Atlanta, you know, back when I used to do Western Union, I'm country. I don't do Western Union anymore.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm in Walmart doing like a Walmart Western Union, and the lady looks at my my ID. She says, "You from Swainsboro?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "You country?" I said, "Where you from?" She said, "I'm from Dublin." Girl, you don't get up out. It's one of those things to where only Dublin people know about Swain. That's how close it is. Yeah. And to me, that would be like somebody from that would be like somebody from Clarksville telling somebody from Martin, Tennessee, they country. Are you serious? No. To me, listen, let me say this. If it is in the southeast of this country, I don't care if it's Atlanta. Yeah. I don't care if it's not. People say, I'm from Memphis, right next to Arkansas. You're definitely. But country people got to stick together. But I think John make a good point. When people ask, how do scouts end up at certain schools? They went to these schools. Now they coaching at these big schools saying, y'all need to go up to Martin. Because that's the great thing that they don't tell you about the coaching thing is, look, man, my roots are my roots. The people that gave me an opportunity, can't see them. Because what happens is, you go up there not expecting much, walking away saying, dude, we only know about these other schools because we watch them.
Yeah. Let me throw this, and this is interesting, and this is from Honey Boo Boo in Dublin, Georgia. And that cannot be the Honey Boo Boo, but says Jaden Hyatt did get drafted in the 3rd round by the Giants. But I think what you were saying, Ben, in fairness, is not a 1st or 2nd rounder, won the Biletnikoff and all like that. And that's what surprises people sometimes. But don't we all know this, guys? I live in Memphis. It's the largest small town in America. I'm over here at the farm at our hunting camp at the lodge. I love coming over here. I'm back and forth 5-6 times a week in Memphis. It's 30 minutes. I'm in downtown Memphis on Front Street. I can see the lights of Memphis. But, man, I'm over here, 1,106 people. Man, we got Spook and Swamp riding around on John Deere 0 turn. They can't drive anymore, but they do that. And we got some characters over here, man. It's fun, but everybody looks out for each other. I mean, the country life is great. That's what makes Memphis so cool because it's in the middle of the country. We're going to be right back with 2 smart guys from small towns right after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House Equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Guys, the thing about the small schools, big schools, whatever, and Ben, having played in the NFL, and John, you call games, you see the schools in UT Martin's conference, you see them play the schools in the Power Five, whatever. Football players, wherever they are, have the same goals. You're right. If we're running a cover 2, if we're running a base 5-2, if we're running a 3-4, if we're running a 3-2-6, whatever, it doesn't matter. And that's one thing, boy, if you ever spend any time in coaching and you coach in a league that's in a big city like Memphis, then you get into the West Tennessee Regional and cross country, and you get some kid from Dresden or Dyer County or whatever, and you got a runner that's won every race in a 2-mile race by 200 yards, and all of a sudden they got someone on their back wheel the entire time. You know what you find out? Some people cannot handle competition. Okay, you got one kid, they might think they're the most important person in the world. 2 kids, they learn to compete. 3 kids, they learn to fight. 3 and above, you learn to get there early just so you can get something to eat, but you learn how to get along and to work. Competition is the best thing in the world. It's a scientific fact in laboratories. You put a male rat in a cage by himself, he's bored, doesn't do anything. You put a second male in there, that testosterone level goes through the roof. I'm talking get after your ass. You know, the coaches, 115 coaches in 17 years have come through UT Martin. 8 of them are in the NFL now. Hell, if I'm a young coach, get my self to Martin. Because my dad just texted me and said, boy, as an architect, we designed the indoor swimming pool and the basketball arena up there. He spent a lot of time up in Martin, Tennessee. Look, as a small boy, I was the only one who used to go up to Reelfoot when the Eagles first started coming back in the early 70s with head ranger Ralph Burris and the naturalist Steve Pardee, and I've eaten at Boyette's about 50 times. I'll just leave that case. And normally in trials, they don't want the defendant to speak on their behalf. You did a great job of responding to what Ben said, because y'all are 2 football savants. I love this stuff.
Well, you brought up a great point before the break about small towns taking care of each other, and then you tie it right into Boyette's, man. You're throwing me softballs right now. One of the reasons UT Martin –
frog legs.
One reason UT Martin has really got on the map is because of a guy from Lake County named Jerry Reese, who's a 2-time Super Bowl winning general manager for the New York Giants, who played football at UT Martin. And when he got that general manager spot, you know what he did? He paid his hometown team and his hometown school back by sending guys here for pro days. And when that happened, and when Montorie Hughes left Tennessee and transferred to UT Martin, got drafted in 2012, you know, that really started bubbling up. And when Montorie Hughes got cut by the Colts, he ended up with the Giants. I mean, you know, Jerry Reese has you always got to have that catalyst, right? I mean, you got to have that catalyst to get that. And you brought up competition too. You're going to have to compete everywhere. But that's one thing that scares me too, is I'm afraid kids don't want to compete anymore. I mean, and we're seeing that with the transfer portal. We see it at little old UT Martin too. I mean, we had our Navy and white game last Sunday. A guy that I really liked, that I thought would end up being our quarterback this year. The other guy outplayed him in the Navy and white game. He's in the portal and he's leaving, and he's a great young man. I mean, I hope Cornelius Browne the fourth, and I wish him luck, because he transferred here from Georgia State. He's about 6'8", 6'9". He athletic dude, can play. He's going to be a radio guy when he grows up. I mean, he's going to, but he's leaving our program, and I hate that. And I'm not saying he didn't want to compete, but I'm just saying the competition is getting so stiff and everything's going so well. I don't know that we embrace competition like we used to, and I wish we'd kind of get back to that.
It's the best thing. You know, competition is the spice of life, as Coach Pratt used to tell us at Christian Brothers High School. And it's the best thing in the world for you is to have to compete. What is it? Warren Buffett was asked one time, you've got all this money and you've got kids. How much money are you going to leave them? He said, well, I'm going to leave them some money, but I'm not going to leave them so much that they lose their motive, hunger to get out of bed in the morning. He goes, they'll be okay. But I think there's a fine line there, and you just nailed it. Ben, wouldn't you agree about the portal? It's the quitter portal. They don't want to compete because so many kids today with this travel ball and all this stuff and all this fancy gear and shit. Okay. Hey, you better learn about competition because, you go to look at basic training. Bus pulls up 11 o'clock at night. Drill instructor gets on there and goes, welcome to Parris Island Marine Corps Depot. When you left home this morning, you were under the care and the custody of your mommy and daddy. From here on out, the first and last word out of your filthy sewers will be, sir. Do you maggots understand me? Sir, yes, sir. All right, let's go. You have exactly 5 seconds to get off of this bus. And 3 of them are already gone. That's what they told a friend of mine in college who wasn't doing really well in school. So his parents thought it'd be good that he go to the Marines. And he went to Parris Island. He said, it was all splits and giggles in the airport in Charleston. Everybody cutting up. We got on that gray bus and started going across the causeway in the low country there to try on the way out there to past Hilton Head and all the Beaufort and all that beautiful resort area. And about we crossed over this bridge in the low country there in South Carolina. There was this huge billboard late at night. And there's this Marine Corps drill instructor with a Smokey the Bear hat. And it says United States Marine Corps. And he's like going, I got your arse, and so we pulled up there. He goes, you could hear the guy in the back of the bus, his heart beating. It was so quiet. And that drill instructor got on there. Everything changed. And the first, few days is processing and paperwork and stuff. But boy, they get you out there and you start having to compete. And you got guys from every background, race, religion. It doesn't matter. About 3 weeks in, he said, our drill instructor senior drill instructor came over and took off his Smokey the Bear hat and put it on the table and said, all right, this is a little bit of free time here. Y'all tell me about yourself. What's your name? I'm Ben Troupe. I'm from Swainsboro, Georgia. I'm John Hattler. I'm from Martin, Tennessee. We did all that, kind of had fun. He goes, when I put this hat back on, it's back to business. And bam, but he started after that was 3 weeks in, but you've got to build a culture, competition, and hard work. Hard work works. And you know what the most important thing you can do? If you're in the hospital, if you're at work, if you're out in public, let people know they matter. Competition, though, is the best thing in the world. Keep people hungry. Ben, what John said, I'm going on here crazy. I am. I hadn't even had coffee yet. But Ben, you played in the NFL, and John has seen it. The guys that make it, that some guys are smart. I mean, like you walked away. Did you ever have a serious injury? I mean, major injury.
Yes. I broke my foot going into my I only had foot injury. I broke my foot going into my second year. I had like plantar fasciitis. I had like a bone, I had a heel bruise. I had it all. But the thing about football that's different is you got to know what your role is first. Like when I'm at the University of Florida, you start feeling yourself a little bit. And I'm like, you know what, coach, man, I think I made the wrong. I'm talking to my coach one time. We leaving practice. I said, coach, I think I made the wrong decision. Without breaking stride, he says, we don't need you. He didn't break stride though. See, the thing is, he's like, you got it wrong. You thought we needed you. We got a room full of you. That's why we got first team, second team, third team, fourth team, right? And he said, the thing about the National Football League, that's the rarest of the rare. That is the rarest of the rare, right? Sometimes it takes being on that field to let you know, do I really want to do this? Because you got the football players are made of football players, people that love it, like it, and in love with it. You got all three players, right? You come across a dude that's in love with football, you don't want to deal with him because that's the person that doing extra is their regular. Going out of their way, that's their regular. Showing up late, showing up early, leaving late, that's their regular. And when you out there on the field with them and you get to messing up, forget the coaches, they're going to jump on your behind. Mm-hmm. But they also trying to let you know that they said instead of wanting to be a superstar, star in your role. Just like be a star in your role. I started 1 year in college. It took me 3 years to get it. Did I have the talent to go out there my freshman year? Yep, that ain't enough. Did I have the ability to go out there my freshman? Yep, that ain't enough. Because he goes, Ben, they'll say this. Do you want to embarrass you, the school, your family? Because that's what you're going to do if you go out there. Then when it don't go well, you're going to become a professional excuse maker. Oh, man, it's because this is because of that. But by the time I got out there, you hear all these sayings, man, in football. You hear you was born loose, you're going to die stiff. What you going to do in between? Or you're going to hear being true. What you want to know about you? That you was a football player? When you first get it, you go, yeah. Your fourth year, you go, man, I want them to forget who I was individually. I want them to see me collectively. That's it. I want them to forget me individually. Because individually, some of us had some pretty good stuff. But then you go, wait a minute, I was surrounded by 10 incredible players. Yeah. Got a hell of a coach. It's almost like this. If my daddy was a king, I'm automatically a prince. I didn't do anything. Yeah. Automatically. So it's like these are the type of things you get. But what happens is selflessness is a real thing. Like it is a everyday, coaches say, find something you have to do all the time. You have to think about all the time. And he'll say, I ain't gonna tell you what, for me, it was selflessness. Because selflessness means every time I want to say something, I don't say it. Every time I feel something, it don't come out. Coaches say, feel the feeling, don't become the emotion. They say, man, coaches are like, they like little philosophers, man. You can't keep up with all this stuff. That's why I can't remember plays, because I remember feelings and emotions. But when it's all said and done, a coach will say, the reality of the situation is what they say about you. Yeah. That's it's what your teammates say about you. Meaning, correct. I could be the most selfless player. If they say I'm selfish, I was selfish because I was portraying something I didn't know. But I was like this. I was 21 years old, and Chris Leak was 18 years old. So coach comes up to me and say, protect him. He goes, why? Because his first start on the road at 18 years old was in Death Valley in LSU. Do you know anything about that? I'm like, nah. So I became a person that understood, dang, by appreciating my teammates, I can appreciate my coaches, I can appreciate the trainers, equipment, and it just went on and on and on. Because here it is, all these years later, most players can't show their faces on these campuses because it's like this, man. If I was an awful player, I was probably an awful teammate, I was probably an awful individual. I don't want to be around nobody. And you notice the family will say, oh, he was like that well before he got the, they show these things. So in the portal, this is what the portal is. Bigger than don't want to compete. You believe what they told you in recruiting, but you heard it different. They didn't say you're gonna start. They said you have the chance to start. Yep. Most players in college will never get out there. Not because it's a numbers game, man. And my thing is this. Florida like me, I like Florida. I chose them, they chose me. I'm gonna stick it out. Because the other team will pick me because, oh man, he's athletic. No. I'm gonna see what this thing is about. And I could have went 4 years and then I started 1 year in high school. I only started 1 year. So when people look at these careers, I say, look, man, listen, man, I make the minutes count, man. When they give me a chance, I'm going to go out there and do all I can. When I first got to football in high school, I had to be the kicker and the punter, not because I was just the athletic person. We didn't have nobody else. Troupe kick, Troupe punt. What? And I'm the dude sitting there with my hand up with 84 on, going to kick this thing, running down on the kickoff. But at the end of the day, man, I'm a football player. That's not an individual sport. I enjoy my teammates because I think so often at times people say, when they say block out the noise, they talking about your family. They talking about your friends. My mom called me in 2008 when I'm my 1 year with the Bucks, and I'm on my way to training camp practice. And my mama said, Benny, you know what? I just want to say I'm sorry because we don't go to those practices. Like, I got coached by Jeff Fisher and Chucky, John Gruden, Lane Kiffin, his brief, and the thing about John Gruden, he said this. John Gruden said, Ben, I'm the trainer and you the boxer. I'm just teaching, just keep throwing jabs. Keep throwing. Yeah. And he said, the problem is you got real good at throwing that jab. So I'll let you get in that spar with the champ. You knock the champ out. So they said, and he said, no, he ain't knocked the champ out. He's always been the champ. That dude just had a nice robe on. This dude came in with beat up shoes, and that's football. I just kept throwing jabs. And now when I look back on it, I got a nephew in college, I got another nephew coming up, my son going to high school, and I say, listen, we are addicted to football. We want to see the same things over We want to see long touchdowns, big runs, but the best players don't talk about themselves.
Yeah.
Like they just don't. So we'll see. But I mean, I hope that Porter don't make a fool out of his play. This is the thing, right? You ever heard the notion of last time I saw you was last time I saw you? That's the Porter. You may never see me again because you got to tread water in the ocean waters until somebody come rescue you. I'm not dealing with that. I don't even get in the shallow end of the pool. I'm not getting in no ocean, man. That's not happening with Benjamin LeChun. No, sir. Yeah.
Well, you know what I think the portal is, guys? I think the portal is becoming like the witness protection program. It is. And so you sent me a text just now, John. Kids today. This is classic stuff. Ben, this is a picture of a bunch of kids on a baseball team. It said kids, but it's kids today. Sliding pads, batting gloves, air cushioned spikes, hitting instructors, strength training. Kids, when we grew up playing, we wore blue jeans, and our dad smoked while coaching third base. And I can tell you, my dad and those guys were over there having a scotch and water, drinking beer, but we were good, and they didn't micromanage us. And if you ever made a lack of effort or ripped on a teammate for something, oh my God, it was WWE. It was a hair match. I mean, it was ugly. But we learned how to compete. And you see these kids today that show up and they've got everything. They're born on third base and think they hit a triple, but they don't know how to compete. John, I know you got to go, but it's a luxury getting to view the world of sports through your eyes as a play-by-play guy. And you know what? I've seen you find me a guy, do the blind test, placebo test from D1, 2, 3, small school, big school. You find me that guy that's hungry. It's the old Coach Dyeism. Sooner or later, boys, the race goes to the horse who thinks he can. And speaking of that, the Derby's coming up Saturday. But you ain't going to win the Derby with a mule. But the horse that wants it the most, that just keeps gritting and grinding and working. You see it every day, John. You got a great job. You are living the American dream.
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of it is some things that Ben hit on. My short-lived baseball career, I was a professional excuse maker because when I quit playing, it wasn't me. It took me 15 years to realize that Coach Prather was a good man. And it also took me 15 years to realize I probably wasn't as good as I thought I was.
Hold that thought, because I want to come back and finish that, and then we'll go. We're going to take a quick break. Sidelines, Ben Troupe, John Hattler, Rob Browne, right after this. Kind of like that scene in the movie Trading Places when they went out there on the floor of the exchange. He goes, they're in the bathroom, and that guy's over there goes, "How's the ulcer, Harry?" "It's okay." "How's the hypertension?" "All right, let's go. Let's go out there and trade." But, keep going, John, because Ben, again, just laid it out there and put it in the vernacular. And you were on a roll before the break. Keep going. That was great stuff.
Like it was one of those things where it took me 15 years to realize that I probably wasn't as good as I thought I was. And every time, of course, you can look out my office and I can see the UT Martin baseball field from here. Okay. And
good view.
Every time that the weather breaks and it's warm and sunny day in March, I get a pit in my stomach because I gave up on something because I loved baseball, but I wasn't in love with baseball because I ended up not playing. But I love the game. I still love the game. And I'm in this position today because I made a promise to myself that I was going to give back to UT Martin everything that I could because what it gave to me, and I gave up on my dreams too quickly. And that's one of the things that is so frustrating about watching the portal. And, I've got a daughter that's 5 foot. If she's standing on her tiptoes, it's a good little softball player.
Mhm.
But, I find myself kind of looking at her through my eyes too, and just not quitting. And how here it is 28 years later in that pit in my stomach, knowing that I didn't finish what I wanted to start and wanted to do my whole life. I wouldn't change my trajectory of my life for anything. I mean, I wouldn't, but I really wish I'd have never given up on that dream, because I did quit. I still have great friendships from it. I was a good teammate. I got to do that stuff, but my mental capabilities or incapabilities mentally kept me from reaching my full potential. But I do still hold the record for most foul balls retrieved in a 9-inning game at UT Martin. So I got, I still have that record. So, but no, Ben was right. It's just the competition side of things is I wish that we would get back to that. And I'm aiming fortunate. I get to be a banker and deal with people every day. I get to do, UT Martin football, and my role is going to change a little bit, probably going forward at that. But I'm going to start doing some baseball with UTM, ESPN Plus kind of stuff. So that's going to be really fun. But it's allowed me to get to know you. I'd have never thought I'd be able to sit here on a podcast and get to do this kind of stuff. That's fun. But you're right. It's all about giving back to your community. I teach a lot of financial literacy classes this time of year. And the one thing that I tell all these students in high school is the biggest lie we're telling everybody, that your happiness is the most important, because it's not. People around you's happiness is the most important. And if you can't get joy from that, then that's a you problem.
Yeah.
And then that goes right hand in hand with being a good teammate and being right there and doing the things that you've got to do just to be a better person.
Yeah, absolutely. And giving back, don't give to get, give to give, and you help out. But every one of these college communities, there's so many great stories that are coming out. And it really, we talk about the portal a lot, Ben and John, and we talk about NIL and all, and we forget a lot of this, most of it, all of it basically, is coming from, we're raising generations of kids. If I'm not doing it, my kids, I'll give you an example. My son just graduated from Auburn with a degree in finance, worked his butt off. But he said, you are told in the investment banking world, pretty much, if you didn't go to Harvard or Yale or the Ivy League or UNC or UVA, and you don't wear an ascot to the lacrosse game, or you went to Vanderbilt or SMU or Texas, forget about it. That just fueled the fire in my son, because he was raised that way. Hey, I'm in sales, man. No means tell me more. Hit me, I'm coming after you. You better raise your kids to be competitive, because if they believe in that crap, that there's this wall that you cannot overcome, this is the only country in the world where it doesn't matter what color you are, race, sex, you can achieve greatness. In a lot of countries, there's a caste system. If you're born poor and dirty, you're supposed to stay poor and dirty the rest of your life. You ever wonder why the line to the U.S. Embassy is 3 or 4 miles long everywhere in the world? In all these other countries, you can walk right in the door. They'll probably feed you and give you a laptop. It's because it's the land of opportunity. Sports, Eddie Robinson said it best. Football teaches the lessons of life. You get knocked on your butt, you get back up. You keep getting back up. But when you don't get back up, you are done. Good luck in the rest of your life. That's common sense, man. I just think, it doesn't matter what level. Why does Nick Saban get out of bed every morning and go to work? He's got more money he can ever spend. Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, because they have a vision of who they are and what they are. And they also remember, I worked so hard to get here. I'm not about to give it back. Ben, you know that. And John, I know if you got to go, you got the.
I got to get.
but thank you so much for being on here with us. I love it, and got to get you on more often. How many days till Sandhill crane season starts?
Oh, I don't know. I'm still at Eat Up with Turkey right now. I got me one opening day, and my dad got a good one yesterday, and I'm gonna try and get me another one. I think my boss will let me. I'm gonna go in the morning.
Yeah.
For a little bit.
Hey, you need to go crappie fishing over there on Reelfoot too.
Dude, yeah, I'm going with Trent Jones here pretty quick, so we're gonna go get him.
Y'all be good, John. We'll have you on next week. Thank you.
Being good to see you again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. I love it, man. That is the banker, Milburn Drysdale up there in Martin, Tennessee, John Hattler. And golly, Ben, you think about it. Now, you've got 3 kids?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. 1 boy, 2 girls?
Yes, 1 boy and 2 girls.
Okay. So he's in high school playing. You strike me as you're not going to be there at every practice with the tailgate down, watching. And you're going to be like, hey, man, I've raised you. You go do it. I trust these coaches. They may ask you something, and you'll be like, look, y'all are the coaches. I mean, that's how you strike me.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not here to kind of throw my weight around. Oh, I did. I'm never gonna do that. Plus, my coach. I know these coaches ain't telling my son or my daughter's only gonna complain if it's something they don't like. I said no.
Yeah.
The coach is your eyes. They are your peripherals. They are your blind spots. What coaches do better than anybody else is look at body language, and they're trying to give you feedback. Plus, if the coach is yelling at you because you on the field, well, y'all both won. You want to get out there. You out there. Don't complain once you get out there. Don't complain about the O-line. Make the O-line better because you're there. Well, my daughter, Yaya, that's the one. My youngest, man, please. The only reason why she's not playing organized football because I've told her you're not doing it. Like, you're not playing with the boys. Yeah. Now, she had to hit me with the daddy. You think they're better than me? Nope. They're bigger than you. Right? Yeah. They're more physical than you. And they're gonna try to embarrass you because you're my daughter. I said, listen, man, daddy ain't never been to jail, but daddy got plenty of bail money. So I ain't trying to be fighting other parents. Yeah. But you're right when you say, Rob, I just want to be a face in the crowd because I don't want, yes, my kids are gonna have to live under the being Troupe kids moniker. Just like any other person that did anything of notoriety when you talk about sports wise. But I tell them embrace it. That way, when the other kids or teams start coming at you, instead of saying, "Hey man, you Ben Troupe's son or daughter," say, "No, I'm John Troupe and Cheryl Troupe's grandson." Yeah, because I come from that. So it's almost like saying they know you for this. Say, no, have you ever seen my grandfather played basketball in the Army. My grandma used to play all these sports, but it's fun, Rob, because like you said, I tell my children, listen, just because you're on a team don't mean you guaranteed a spot. Just because you out here don't mean you're gonna get out there. Just because you're on a team, but they love it. They love competing, and all of them though. I got a nephew in college right now. I got another nephew that's gonna be a junior in high school, play running back. I got my sons being in high school next year. Both of my daughters will be in the 7th grade. I just enjoy watching them compete, Rob, because I'm like you. Even what you said about your son. When somebody tells them, why don't you go to Harvard? I don't think that's to you. That's prestigious. My dad and granddad went to freaking Auburn, man. I'm going to Auburn to do something, and because that's our prestigious to us is the colleges that our parents went to, grandparents went to. Yes, you got Harvard and Yale and Princeton and MIT. I get it. Yeah. But I said, man, I don't want to go there. I said, listen, finance is finance, right? Yeah. Finance degrees are finance degrees, right? Engineering degrees are engineering degrees. Well, my daddy went to Auburn. I saw that Auburn diploma a lot of years. I wanted mine. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day is, and my daddy was in finance. So I knew about certain stuff. I'm telling my professor, that's wrong. What you just put up there, it don't go. My dad told me to tell you, you need to come to his office. You can be another one of his clients. So I'm just saying it's supposed to be because our tradition will always lie from the bloodline first. Yeah. I'm just gonna start from who I come from first, what they did second, and I like that being from the South, we share that commonality of, man, we love who we come. We love who we come from first, where we come from second, what we do third. And it should always be that way because I think that the legacy that I carry on is that of my grandparents, my great grandparents, the ones I never knew. Yeah. I don't, when it comes to my children in sport, I tell them this, listen, if sports stop being fun, I will take you out. If you start stressing for the wins and the losses, I'm going to take you out because I did not know that stress was a learned behavior. I ain't going to teach it to you from me. You're not going to attain it from no coaches and players. My daughter plays AAU basketball. She plays club soccer. She gonna try to run track because her grandma wanted to do it. My son plays football. He's trying to play. It's enjoy being young and your body is really, really intact. You can get 30 times and wake up the next day because this adulting thing ain't what people make it out to be. You know how it is, Rob. I said, look, man, just good health is my wealth. My good health, quality of mind, peace of mind, all the other stuff is just a bonus.
Yeah, and take care of yourself. Always take care of yourself. Be physically fit, mentally alert, and morally straight. Got a interesting quote here. I love it from Auburn. He just recently won the Lifetime Achievement Award for Auburn, Mr. Bobby Louder. I love this quote. He said when he was up there back in late February accepting the award, "When you drink the water, remember who dug the well." And that is a powerful statement. Ben, I got a question here from a friend of mine. I love this one here. This is from Levon Helm, Turkey Scratch, Arkansas. It's a suburb of Marvell, which is a suburb of Helena. I'm talking a small town in the Delta. Levon Helm, lead singer in the band. But he says, Ben, you played for Florida in 2003. Y'all went on the road at Tiger Stadium because you mentioned Chris Leak, quarterback from Independence High School in Charlotte, North Carolina, not Country Day, but Independence. And you beat LSU, who later that season went on to win the national championship. Mm-hmm. Talk about that game and what that atmosphere was like, because I can remember Ben watching that game, and I didn't know that I would eventually have Ben Troupe on the show with me every week, being my Socrates, my Plato, my Aristotle. What I'm calling you and Buddy Martin and Franz Beard now is SPA. Socrates is the, Buddy. Plato is Franz, and you're Aristotle. I mean, this is what I love about sports. But talk about that game.
It was the greatest opportunity for us because we coming off a loss against Ole Miss. So out of the first 6 games, we 3-3, right? We already 3-3. We had a team meeting, and everybody was trying to avoid the obvious, right? We trying not to place the blame on our true freshman quarterback. Chris Leak stands up in the meeting and says, "Fellas, we don't got to do this. I promise y'all what happened against Ole Miss will never happen again." He ain't talking about the loss. He's saying the way he played. Mm-hmm. At that point, we all grew up as young. We went from young men, right, on a football team to a team, period. We get on the plane, and we headed to LSU. We said, "Listen, man, we in hostile territory, right? No one expects us to come out. Nick Saban is over there with, Marcus Spears, who's on the team right now. Michael Clayton, those guys. Our defense stood up that day. Theatric Faison, got a big touchdown. Rand Carthon, the new GM of the Tennessee Titans, was on that team. What I liked the most was when nobody expect you to win, but the people in that locker room are shedding your same colors. Because at halftime, the LSU fans are like, "Listen, that student section at LSU, it is crazy. They let the student section just run in there and go crazy." But we won that game because we stopped playing individual football. It wasn't about the individual. Bobby McCray and Keywan Ratliff and those guys on that defense. Theatric Phase, the running game was incredible. When we won the game, right? Ron Zook stands up after the game and looks at us and says, "That's what happened when you believe before, during, and after the game. You can't just start believing once we kick the ball off." Right? I realize we in Death Valley, hostile territory. They got that freaking real tiger over there. They better make sure that cage is really locked, because if he get out, I'm gone. I don't love Florida that much. I'm up out of here. But it was great. It was great for Chris because I don't know what it's like being a true freshman starting in the SEC. Period. That's not starting a quarterback, and to stare adversity in the face and don't blink. Because the one thing Ron Zook used to tell us is, he said, you have to withstand the onslaught. It's going to be a certain part of this game. They've given you everything they got. If you are still standing, you got a chance to be standing at the end. Those things he started making sense to us. And when we on that plane headed back to Gainesville, we only 4-3. We went our next 5 games was LSU on the road, Arkansas on the road, Georgia, right, South Carolina. Yep. And we won and Vanderbilt. So we went into LSU 3-3. After LSU in those next 5 games, we 8-3. So we won 5 in a row. So that was the catalyst that started it all. I tell people this all the time. My senior year was 2003. That wasn't the best. That wasn't the most talented team I was on. That was the best team I played on because of the guys that I got to play with. And like I said, I knew that Chris Leak was going to go on and do great things. I didn't know he was going to go on and, win national championships or the first one for Urban Meyer. But yeah, it's what we needed. Like Zook used to always tell us, man, stop begging for what you want, man, and hope you get what you need. Like, hope you get what you need. And that's what we needed because it shifted our mindset. We went from an I and me team to a us and we team. Yeah. And we ended up losing to Florida State that year, which kept us out of the SEC because it was the 3-way tie that year for the SEC East. Georgia, us, and Tennessee all tied, and Tennessee went. Yeah. It was fun because it's almost like this. Coach goes, listen, if we lose the game, that's what the world expected us to do. But what happens when we messed up the schedule for not just us, but for the rest of the SEC? I mean, we came back home with that dub. That was a great win.
Yeah, hold that thought. Hang on with us. We're going to try to bring on Rodney Orr. He's got the iPhone, Android issues worked out. Right after this quick break, if you can stay, Ben, that 2003 game, Chris Leak gave a speech similar to what Tim Tebow gave in 2008. That's what I learned right there. Great story. Right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Ben, before Rodney gets on here with us, and I want you to stay on, that's going to be fun. I want to learn a lot about the Alabama quarterback situation. This is exactly where we've been going this, and we've got it. The portal is more about kids just don't want to compete like they should. And you mentioned that team. Chris Leak was a hell of a quarterback. 2006, Tim Tebow's a freshman. He played some, but I mean, Chris Leak that was his team. Tim was in there in certain offensive sets and whatever like that. 2007, he wins the Heisman with a 9-win team. 2008, when Florida beat Oklahoma, you remember Oklahoma in the 5 games up to that national championship game against Florida in 2008, they were averaging almost 60 points a game. That Florida defense was pretty damn good. I think they held them. I think Florida won 24-14. Wow. There was some talent on that team. That's from 1989 to 2009. What team in America won more college football games than any other team? I think you might know.
Well, them boys from GVS started with the great Steve Spurrier, and even with that national championship team with Tim Tebow and them. You talk about Tim Tebow, talk about Percy Harvin, you talk about the Pouncey twins. That the defense. You had Vernon Spikes, you had Carlos Dunlap, you had Major Wright, you had Ahmad Black, you had Joe Hayden, you had Janoris Jenkins. When you think, if you are Urban Meyer, you saying to yourself, "All right, fellas, see you guys tomorrow." They go to the team meeting, and Urban goes, "Oh my freaking God!" Like, people ask this all the time: who's the most exciting player you've seen in the last 30 years? 3 names come to mind on offense. Yeah, first, Reggie Bush. explosive. I mean, ridiculous. Then Peter Warrick. Peter Warrick at Florida State was incredible. Then I'll go Percy Harvin. Percy Harvin was known nationally for what he did. People go, what did Percy Harvin do? Whatever you wanted him to do. He was a receiver, bring him in a running back, kick returner, punt returner. But the thing about it is that was some of the glory years. When it comes to Florida. But hey man, I wasn't on those teams, but I mean, people always ask me about those squads.
Yeah. Oh, you laid the groundwork for it. Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider's on here with us right now. And Rodney, glad to have you on here. And we have been talking a lot about the portal and college football and the upcoming season. Alabama just finished up spring practice last week. Everybody's talking about the quarterback situation. And folks, if you are an Alabama fan or not, $48 a year for Tighter Insider. It's the best money you'll ever spend on the Crimson and White, and you won't get better coverage. But Rodney, let's talk Alabama football as you see it, and just take it from here. You're on with Ben Troupe, ESPN Coastal in Savannah, Gator All-American, and me, and we're ready to hear, and the whole free world is. And I got a ton of people texting me right now going, Rodney, tell us who the quarterback's going to be. Get that crystal ball ready.
Well, that's been the number one question, obviously, since, before spring practice started. So, and here's the thing. That's an answer that nobody can really provide right now. I think, it's we didn't expect Nick Saban to name a starter regardless, but it's pretty obvious that it's not a settled position. He would not have gone out and gotten Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame had it been something that they were really confident in right now. I think as you look at the quarterback situation at Alabama, the best assessment I can give would be this. I think you look at Jalen Milroe. He's an extraordinarily gifted athlete. He has incredible athletic ability as a runner. He has a very strong arm. I think he's still developing as a passer. He's got to develop his consistency, his accuracy, anticipation, all of those things. And a lot of that, too, goes back to when he was in high school. He was just in a system that used his athleticism. He really wasn't developed in a system that, used him as a passer. So with that said, I think Ty Simpson, the other returning competitor, he is a guy that's really gifted, has a lot of tools. But I think Ty needs to continue to develop his understanding of the offense, which he's done. I think in the spring game you saw him start to kind of gain confidence. But, the question with him is he going to be ready by the time fall gets here? That's the big question. I think with Buckner, he's a guy that obviously Tommy Rees is extremely familiar with, coached him for a couple of years at Notre Dame. So it's going to be really interesting once camp opens up to see how quickly that Buckner can adjust to being at Alabama.
Yeah, and there's a ton of talent there. And y'all folks, you're listening to Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider, the May Veterinary Clinic, Crimson Tide Report since 1964. 2 locations, Tuscaloosa and Northport. Doggy Daycare, they have a Camp May pickup and delivery of the dogs on Sundays from 3 to 5 p.m., but they're open every day of the week. The best veterinary clinic in the world. Proud to have you sponsoring Rodney Orr and Tighter Insider. Rodney, another quick question. You had 3 of the top 12 players taken in the draft. Jahmyr Gibbs went number 12 in the draft. Of course, Will Anderson Jr., number 3, Bryce Young, number 1. I think Carolina made a great move, but you got to replace these guys. There are a lot of options there. If you're looking now at the offensive line, and Ben, you'd have to say this too. That's the hardest position to find guys on. Rodney, how's Alabama's offensive line looking from what you can tell through spring practice?
Well, I think that was one of the positives of spring. Wow. And Nick Saban saying that, it was the group that really set the tone for the rest of the team, which is extremely promising, obviously, because I think Alabama's going to get back to playing a little bit more physical up front. They want to be able to run the football more effectively than what they did the last couple of years. So up front offensively, I think they still have some developing to do, obviously, but I think they have a lot of parts there. Seth McLaughlin back at center. Darian Dalcourt can play center or guard. He was working at guard this spring alongside J.C. Latham, and then Tyler Booker, also working there at the guard spot. Actually, Dalcourt worked at both guards and centers. Then, the question is going to be left tackle right now. I think Elijah Pritchett obviously was running with the first team, but struggled a little bit in pass protection. But watch out for number 74, true freshman Caden Proctor out of Des Moines, Iowa. Yeah. He is a mountain of a man. So, the offensive line, I think Rob is in an area, and they've got a lot of young freshmen now that also performed really well in the spring drills. So, it's an area that I think is going to be vastly improved.
Yeah. And Rodney, when I think about Alabama and the quarterback position, how much more pressure is it on these current crop of quarterbacks? When you look at Jalen, what he just did in Philly, the money in the Super Bowl, Tua, they picked up his 50 option. Mac Jones, obviously, we'll see what goes on with him in New England. And Bryce Young wins the Heisman, number 1 overall pick. At one point, it was, they really, really good at college. What they do in the pros, that myth is gone. How much more pressure does it? They invented pressure in Tuscaloosa. We get it. How much more pressure does it add to these guys, knowing that, the Heisman thing is out the way. We want to another one thing. Bryce would have won recruiting class.
Yeah, Ben. I think Ben's breaking up a little bit here, but
yeah, I got the gist of it, Rob. Look, I think Nick Saban does the best job of managing pressure on his players. I think he does a really good job of that. So I think that the real focus for these quarterbacks is he gets them to hone in on what they need to do to get better and not really listen to anything, whether it's, pressure from the success that they've had at those positions through the years, whatever it is. I just think he does a tremendous job of getting these guys to focus on the task at hand. And I think, every indication is that, these guys, I'm talking about Milroe, Ty Simpson, even the true freshmen are focused on what they have to do to compete for the job.
Well, and the bottom line is the competition is a good thing. And Roman Harper was on the show with us a couple of weeks ago, and he said, in Nick we trust. He goes, he hadn't gotten it wrong yet. He'll figure it out. But I think, Rodney, is this the first time that Alabama under Nick Saban has gone into the portal? I guess, sure it is, to find a quarterback. That doesn't mean that Ty Simpson and Jalen Milroe can't play. It's that they're not at this point settled on a quarterback, and they figure, hey, competition's going to make us even better.
No, I think you summed it up there. It's not that they're not going to be good or they can't be good or they're not capable, but it's just the question is, are these guys going to be ready? One of these guys be ready for 2023, to help the offense reach its potential. Again, that's just a question that will play out over the summer and in August. But as far as Saban going to the portal for a quarterback, don't forget now, even though it wasn't the portal, they did have Jake Coker grad transfer here, in the 14 season. And obviously Blake Sims won that job. And then the next year, Coker led Alabama to the national championship. So this isn't the first time really he's had a transfer quarterback. But it is, as you mentioned, the first time that he's gone to the portal since the portal opened.
Well, and Rodney, you look around in college football, the culture that you have at Alabama. I mean, this is going on the 17th season for Nick Saban there. And year after year, I mean, last year, Rodney, or you and Gary Harris are on the show tonight at 6:30 WVUA TV 23. And, Gary called me, I remember, after the Tennessee loss last year. He said, Rob, when Alabama loses in this era, it is epic. People storm the field. He goes, we get that ball. Alabama as a player, you're never going to go to a game where the other team shows up flat. I don't think people fully appreciate what that means, but Alabama's going to always get everybody's best. They were 11-2 last year. Could have lost 4 or 5 games, but they didn't. They won them. And the 2 that they lost literally were on the last play. Mm-hmm. Just put that in perspective for people. You know, the only 2 games you lost were on the last play of the game. And the other 5 that you could have lost, or 4 or 5, whatever, went down to you didn't. I mean, that's a hell of a coaching job, but that's a close-knit group. But you know what? The takeaway from last year for me, 2 of my favorite players now are Bryce Young and Will Anderson, because they said, you know what? These are my teammates. I'm not quitting on them. I'm playing in that bowl game. I think what happened there, potentially, I think it is setting the tone for a really good future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it, I go back to last year when, after the loss to LSU, I think the Ole Miss game was a much, much bigger game than some people looking back on it remember. I mean, the Sharks were kind of out in the water at that time. People were saying Saban was losing it. There was, he needed to make staff changes. There was some concern that maybe the recruiting that they had, the commitments that they had of several top players might be at risk. All these things because of, everyone jumping on the bandwagon that Saban was losing it. Yeah. And that game was crucial. Ole Miss jumped out early, obviously, but Alabama battled back. They won that game, and it kind of propelled them through the rest of the season. Obviously, they finished out, winning the rest of their games. And I think it, certainly helped them in terms of finishing off that recruiting class the way they did. And it's an incredible recruiting class that they brought in. And like they have 26 new players here right now that have gone through spring practice. That was really crucial. I think we're going to see a lot of those guys make strong major contributions to this team. So I think the way the season finished and the way they polished off the recruiting class and held on to all of their key guys, I think as you start to look forward to the future, I think that was really, really key to Alabama's hopes.
Yeah, and the one thing you got the talent. I mean, this past recruiting class was number 1 in the country. Go back 3 years ago, that offensive line class we've talked about was arguably the most star-studded Alabama's ever signed. Are you seeing offensive line? Now, you said that's one of the positives that came out of spring was that they've improved, but for most of college football teams, it's a patchwork offensive line. You got to go into the portal to do it. In your opinion, Rodney, is the portal starting to pan out? It's almost like I call it the witness protection program equivalent. 45% of these guys are not getting picked up, I don't think, by other schools. Are we entering an era, and we've talked about this throughout the show today, of kids that just they don't want to compete because they really have been babied and pushed along to the front of the line of them their whole lives. You the man. Everything revolves around you, because the days of the guys that – how about that guy I watched on Major League Baseball, the Phillies and the Astros Sunday night? 13 years in the minor leagues. He finally got to the big leagues. And you could see A-Rod, kind of like in awe of this guy. But we need more guys like that are just willing to fight through life.
Yeah, I mean it's not really been unpredictable what was going to happen. I thought we knew when this portal was coming that you were going to have kids that, when things didn't pan out exactly the way they wanted them as quickly as they wanted them, that they were going to be wanting to jump ship. I think that's one thing you have to do in the recruiting process now, is to kind of protect yourself against that by making sure when you build these relationships with these kids that, what they understand what it's going to be when they get there. There's no pie in the sky type of, impressions that they have. So I think you have to do that now. I also think this too, obviously, you knew that there were going to always have people in their ear to continue to recruit them, and that's really what happens. I mean, that's just the way it is. You almost need a retention staff now to keep your players. But yeah, so I mean, we knew all these things were coming. But again, I go back to what we said. It's part of the evaluation process now. You have to really know what kind of kid you're recruiting.
Yeah, you really do. And Rodney, you'll be back on next Tuesday. This is the May Veterinary Clinic, Alabama Report. May Veterinary Clinic in Tuscaloosa and Northport since 1964, open every day. Camp May is awesome. It's a place for dogs and cats. They even have an outdoor swimming pool, and they have connecting cat condos that live in the same house. They can live there. Rodney, you are the best. Tider Insider is the best source for Crimson Tide information. One last question. Looking ahead, Alabama's going to be 1, 2, or 3. What of this team? What's going to be kind of who are the leaders that came out of spring for the 23 Alabama football team?
Well, I think it's a good question. I think some of them set out spring because of injuries. Deontay Lawson, inside linebacker, Chris Braswell and Dallas Turner, outside backers. I think some of the guys up front, J.C. Latham on the offensive side, Seth McLaughlin at center. Those guys certainly are going to have opportunities. Darian Dalcourt to be leaders. I think Jace McClellan is a running back. So, again, I think the leadership is still developing, Rob, for this team.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. Rodney, tell people again how they can follow you with Tider Insider, and look forward to having you on next week. Always enjoy the time when you're here.
TiderInsider.com. It's only $48 a year, and you can get instant access with your credit card, or if you prefer, there is an address there to send a check, and it gives you all of our premium information. We had a story yesterday, or some thoughts, Rob, on the quarterback situation at Alabama, and then also our All Sports Forum. That's our community of Alabama fans. I mean, we have a great community for over 27 years. A lot of exchange there, a lot of information. Hey, Rob, as we like to say, this isn't like a bunch of kids out there posting GIFs and doing silly things. This is a lot of discussion that goes on amongst a lot of longtime Alabama fans.
Yeah, and also tonight, 6:30 p.m. WVUA TV 23. What are you and Gary talking about?
Be honest with you, Rob, I show up. It's a live TV show. Hey, listen, when you do this every day of the week, that's your preparation. So when we get there, we just kind of fire away.
Yeah. Well, it is going to be a lot of fun. Hey, folks, Rodney or Tider Insider, follow him. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Don't ever waste a day. You can't get it back. Make positive things happen. Until tomorrow, we are out of here. Have a great day, everybody.